Well, wasn't that an interesting game? And by interesting, I mean. Oh. So, Leafs were in Vancouver to play the Canucks, who haven't played a game in like 3 weeks because the whole fucking city got COVID, whatever. And the Canucks complained about their schedule on the after coming back, so they delayed it a couple days to give them a bit more time to practice and stuff. And so tonight was the first game back, and I was hoping the Leafs would basically, okay, we got a team that just apparently are suffering like crazy because of this COVID and can't recover or whatever. Step on their necks, take the pace to them, and they shouldn't be able to keep up, right? Well, they didn't look that bad, to be honest. I wish they'd played a couple days ago and maybe they would have gotten a better result, right? But now that being said, the Leafs were the better team all night long for the most part, and they did deserve to win. But it was just one of those games that didn't take advantage of certain opportunities. Campbell maybe struggled a bit in net, and and yeah, it just didn't work out despite them being, for the most part, the better team all night long. So it's the good vibes started early because just slightly less than 4 minutes in, Nylander, who was back in the lineup for his first game after his COVID sit out, whatever he had to do. Turnover in the neutral zone. Tavares just poked it ahead for Nylander. He went down the left wing at the face-off dot, wired one glove side on Holtby, 1-0 Leafs. It would stay that way through the end of the period, and like I said, the Leafs had the shot advantage, they had the pace advantage, they had the zone time advantage, time of possession. Like they were dictating the pace of the game at this point. And then the second period came, and they really had an opportunity to put this thing away, and couldn't. And what's the problem? Their fucking power play again. Jesus. Not long before the halfway point of the period, Canuck took a penalty, and the Leafs had a 2 minute regular kind of penalty, power play, and I thought they moved the puck pretty well. They got some chances. They just couldn't get anything to go. Some close calls, some of those little, just rolls by the post, whatever, like those types of scenarios, right? Where they're just so close to getting a goal, but it just can't quite go. And then after the penalty ended, they were able to maintain the zone time, and because the Canuck penalty killers were so tired and they've been killing off basically that whole penalty almost, the Leafs were able to just keep the puck in the zone and keep it going and keep it going. Despite that, nothing ever happened. But it did seem to, you know, the lost power play, sometimes it can suck the momentum from you. This one, it didn't really, because they just kept it going, sort of thing, right? But again, they still didn't get anything out of it. So just past the halfway point, Edler stuck out his knee on Hyman and earned himself a major penalty and got kicked out of the game. So a 5 minute power play opportunity, which, considering the cost it came at with Hyman being knocked out of the game, I'd rather them not have had it. But it is what it is, and I haven't heard anything about Hyman since. But usually those knee-on-knee collisions aren't great. Usually that's some sort of it might just be a hyperextension or a stinger that he'll be back soon enough. But or it could be something like, not ACL or something like that, right? Like MCL, ACL, whatever the fuck they are, where your knee is totally shut down for a while and needs all that attention, right? Which I think he already had. He played with a slight tear or something like that in the playoffs last year, I think it was. So I think he's already had some knee work done on him. So that sucked. But they had a 5 minute power play, and Sheldon Keefe threw out the second unit right away almost, because the first unit had kind of been diddling around with it too much, I like to call it. And that's a side effect you get from a team that has so much talent, right? They want to make the perfect play all the time. They overpass, and that they were very guilty of that tonight. Whereas, Marner, especially in this one play, he made this fantastic move at some point. I don't remember what point this was during the game. Just a complete dangle that left the Canuck forward like in his dust, going, "What the fuck just happened?" And then he got right in front of the net, and then he tried to pass off, and there was too many bodies in the way, and it flibbled away. And he just could have shot that thing and probably scored, right? But so they do that a lot, and especially the top players on the team, right? Because they're just so used to using that skill and throwing it around and waiting for that perfect opportunity instead of just throw it at the net, throw it at the net, simplify, right? So Keefe put out that second unit quite a bit until the first unit got going a bit more and stuff, and it seemed to work, at least in terms of generating chances, because they had a pile of them on this 5-minute opportunity, and then they finally made good with a power play goal, but it was with like maybe 19 seconds left in the major. So although they only got one and it took almost the whole power play to do it, at least they got one, right? Because this power play was 1 for 43 or something like that, or 1 for 44 going into this major penalty. So good news is they got one. Bad news is I wish they could have got 2 or 3, right? And totally put the game away. And I'm sure the Canucks were happy with only giving up one, right? So here we go, 2-0, middle of the or back end of the second period, and don't you know it? Not long after, 2 minutes later or whatever, Vancouver strikes, and it's 2-1. I think it was Horvat on the first goal. Just a clean shot that beat Campbell from maybe the face-off dot, similar to Nylander's opportunity or goal in the first period. So we go to the break between the second and third, up 2-1. And then the Canucks scored in the third. I don't remember when it was in the third, but it was Höglander, and it was, again, just another clean beat on Campbell. He had a so-so game. I thought he would have wanted both of those goals back in a way. You know, they weren't screened or anything like that. I mean, they were a bit closer in, but I still feel as though he probably wanted them back. And I'm not getting down on Campbell at all, because this guy's a really good goalie, and he played so well there during that streak he had going, and saved their bacon in a lot of situations, right? So, but yeah, I know he probably wished he could have played those ones a little differently, or had them back or whatever. So, in the third period, the first in the second period were both very high-paced periods, with the Leafs controlling the majority of the play. Third period, things kind of bogged down a bit. I thought the pace dropped a little, which was understandable on the Canucks side, because it was their first game in a few weeks after, the whole COVID thing. But I really thought the Leafs should have maybe taken advantage of that a bit. But it seemed to slow down just overall, and with Vancouver scoring the one lone goal there, we were off to overtime, much as we were against the Flames a couple of games ago. And the Canucks scored and ended at 3-2. It was Horvat with kind of a partial break. No, I mentioned the Matthews goal. Yeah, never mind. Campbell got a piece of it. It was all 3 goals were very similar, from the same kind of range and spot on the ice. He got a piece of it, but just not enough, and it dropped down into the corner of the net, and it was game over. So, positives to take out of this game: the Leafs were by far the better team. They deserved the win. It's not like they lost this game because it was just a close game and it was like last shot kind of wins, or they had a shitty game and just got beat out. No, they were the better team. They should have won. This is the way it goes sometimes. Other positives to take out of it: I mean, they had 19 minutes in power play time, I think it was, or whatever, and they only got 1 goal, but at least they got a fucking goal, right? That's about it, I guess. And they scrape a point out of it, I guess. That's the other thing. At least they don't come away totally empty-handed. But on the downside, who knows what Hyman's status is. And they lose their 4th game in a row. So they got to reverse this thing right away, because now Winnipeg's sniffing right behind them, right? So you want to keep that cushion, which isn't much of a cushion anymore, as high as you can. So some other changes tonight. the defensive pairs, Muzzin and Hull had a rough night the other night, so Keefe kind of separated them. Oh, excuse me. Normally Riley and Brody are the Leafs' top pair. He split them up and paired them off with those two guys. I think it was it Brody and Muzzin, and Riley and Hull. Yeah, were the top two defensive pairs. So he kind of split them up to kind of maybe try and fiddle with things a bit and make sure that didn't happen. I'm sure he'll have them back together at some point because all the pairs have been really good, right? Their defense has been really good for the most part. So, but just trying to mix things up probably and help them out after that rougher game they had. So, other than that, that was the only real change. You know, the Leafs defense core has been such a revelation this year with how well they've played and how consistent they've been in terms of all the same guys being in the lineup all the time. They just haven't really had any defensive injuries. It's all been the forwards and the goalies, for fuck's sake. So I mean, there's pros and cons to what happened tonight, but it is what it is. You got to move on and get ready for the next game. And I haven't checked the schedule yet, so I don't know when that is. But regardless, I'll be watching and I'll be making another stupid video. You can rest your hat on that. Toodles.